evening, everyone. It's Lewis-duncan. I hope you're really well. So this evening I just wanted to talk a little bit about fashion and why I think it's really important to dress for your size or your shape. Now, everyone has their idea of style icons. I think it's really important to find a style icon that has a similar body shape or height to yourself. That way, when emulating their style or particular looks that that particular icon or celebrity has done, you will find that it works to your body much better. Now, I recommend looking at different people for your look. Maybe finding someone through past history, perhaps an older icon, such as someone like Grace Kelly, who is known for her elegant look, or perhaps Audrey Hepburn and her love for Herbert Givenchy. They were very close friends, and Audrey became known for wearing Givenchy in many of her movies. If you look at Breakfast at Tiffany's now, every look she wore within the movie could be emulated now in 2014 and still be incredibly elegant and on trend. Now, if you find a particular person you would like to emulate their style, where can you get their look from? Not everyone will have an American Express with no limit or access to a very large bank account. So many people's wardrobes that you may look up to may be out of your price level. So I recommend looking at basic structures of that particular person's wardrobe and working to this to your advantage. Maybe finding one or two pieces that you can perhaps spend more on to keep in your wardrobe as forever items. Now, forever items are pieces that will always work for whatever occasion, will always look chic, and are always appropriate for many events, such as a classic white shirt, a beautiful nude stiletto, a simple suit for a gentleman, or the LBD for you beautiful ladies. Now, all style can be elaborated depending on seasons by adding the look of that particular season with accessories such as necklaces, scarves, or added extra jewellery. Now, this can be changed every season to what particular tone is on trend if you would like to constantly update your look. But buying classic items will always mean you are looking effortless, and this is style over fashion. Now, so we were talking about style icons. The word icon normally negates to having someone over a time period being someone people can look up to and having a classic style. Now, in our modern counterparts, there are many celebrities that people look up to, and you can take their looks and break them down and make them appropriate for your wardrobe. I recommend looking at one or two pieces that they have in their wardrobes or have been seen in. So many celebrities will go for red carpet looks. I recommend looking at their day looks. So perhaps if you've seen them in Grazia, Hello, Tatler, or Vogue, then you can break down these looks. So currently, particular items that are trend-led are spring and summer tones, are soft pastel colours, which can be worn against a black background to add different texture. Always on trend for spring and summer is white. As we mentioned, the white shirt has returned in a huge way, and there are many on the high street and many in the designer houses available. I also recommend finding pieces that are vintage that you can have adapted to your body shape, perhaps going to a seamstress, or if you're handy with a needle and thread, perhaps doing this yourself, or some dry cleaners want to do alterations for you, turning a vintage item into a modern counterpart and making it wearable for now. But also this gives you personality, and also you'll find a lot of vintage clothing in terms of the manufacturing or how the item is put together tends to be more of a higher quality. Even on the high street, most vintage pieces will be better quality. Now, finding your own style. I recommend doing a dream sheet or a tear-out board of images from magazines, books, or in the media that you've seen that you like. Tearing out many looks and then filtering down and adapting that particular style into one which is going to suit your body shape. As I recommend, finding your shape first before trying on clothing if you're going to change your style is really important. Finding clothing that does not flatter can be quite an unfortunate thing and can make you feel really bad when trying on items. Knowing which items to almost forget about when shopping is quite handy. If you know a particular style isn't going to work for you, removing it from your list isn't good. Just because an item is currently in trend does not mean it's appropriate for your wardrobe. If you're not comfortable in that item, or you don't think it particularly suits your shape, it's not worth buying into one season trend. As I said, we're talking classic items here. So skinny trousers have been, or skinny jeans, have been in most people's wardrobe for quite some time. Depending on how you feel about your legs and your height as to where you should get your trouser to fit. You can get a slim skinny rather than a super skinny if you would prefer. Now, I recommend actually finding something like a kick flare or a slightly bootcut trouser. Yes, you may think, are they back? Yes, they are. Flares are coming back in, and also they are more comfortable trousers to wear. But also, as I've said, finding a style that suits you and is comfortable is not necessarily just a trend-led item. A boot cut or a slight flare will always make you feel elongated, slimmer, and more appropriately able to move when you're out and about. They do not date. They do come in and out of fashion, but they are a classic item and they will stay in your wardrobe for all times. This can also be adapted to jeans, recommending something like J Brand or 7 for All Mankind, doing a slight dark wash kick flare denim jean, which can be dressed up with your white shirt, as we mentioned earlier, or some cool vintage rock and roll t-shirts if you want to go down that look. Mixing your items in your wardrobe by having a capsule wardrobe works to your advantage. You may find you have a smaller wardrobe which you can then add accessories to, but each of the items work together. So putting a blazer with your LBT, or as I just said, the white shirt with the jean. There are many ways to update your wardrobe each season at an affordable cost, or if you would like to go out and buy the blowout items. So depending on who you are as a person and where you work. But I recommend buying one fantastic piece every season that has a slight classic twist that you can keep, such as a beautiful coat during fall winter, or some beautiful shoes, or a fantastic handbag over the spring and the summer periods. I'm sure you all know all about designer handbags and where to get them from, because there are so many amazing YouTube videos for those particular items. So we're mainly focusing on clothing and fashion. Now, talking high street, where to go for pieces that are affordable but well cut. I recommend places like Reiss, Marks & Spencer, Jaeger. You could also go into Zara Zara does some fantastically affordable pieces that almost encapsulate a certain brand on many high-end Bond Street's rodeo drives. I'm sure you all know which brand I mean, and I think Zara does that particularly well. If you are looking to find some more quirky items, we mentioned vintage, but where to go for vintage? You can try charity shops, you can try vintage haul sales, or you can go to things like flea markets. There are many stores now that are exclusively advertised as vintage, but finding vintage can be quite hard. Vintage pieces have to be at least 10 years old and have warrant of pieces, otherwise it's just last season. Now that doesn't matter if you find a piece and it just happens to be last season, but as I said, if you're comfortable and happy with that. But vintage itself has become such a synonymous word in its own. So people like Liberty have a vintage room, which I recommend. It's one of my favourites. But as I said, there are many within London and many all over the UK. For instance, there is a fantastic vintage shop in Hull, so if you are in Yorkshire, I recommend that. But finding somewhere you feel comfortable and where you feel your style emulates. If you like High Street, or if your budget is more appropriate for High Street, I really recommend going and finding the best pieces within your budget at those items, and finding one or two slightly more expensive pieces that you can slide in and buy less over the season, and they will keep in your wardrobe. So if you would like any further tips about how to be classic, what items are the items to have this season, or what encapsulates a capsule wardrobe, I can link you to some articles within Mead magazine, or by leaving me some questions. I'm more than happy to talk to you about any fashion ideas or questions you have. Have a wonderful evening.